Today, we are talking to Tim Lodgen. Tim is a very interesting guy. He has a great story to tell. He is in outstanding physical shape. You can't see him if you're just listening, but he's very into keeping fit. He's been an MMA fighter, junior Olympic boxer,
Yep.
and a Marine. And he found himself in a bad situation that he was able to get out of. And he wants to share his message of recovery and hope with everybody that he can. And welcome Tim Lodgen to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad we were finally able to connect, and I really appreciate you having a platform for me to be able to share and possibly reach one more person. That's my goal.
Absolutely. One at a time. Is there
That's
anything
it.
else we need to know about you and who you are right now in your life?
I'm a grateful father of three daughters. I have two beautiful little grandsons that are my buddies. I have a beautiful, loving, caring, most patient wife that you could ever believe because I've given her over dozens and dozens of excuses to leave me, and she stuck by me. And I used to be that victim. Why is this all happening to me? Why am I all this bad luck? Why is everything coming down on me? And then once I got sober and started living the life of recovery, I realized it didn't happen to me, it was happening for me so that I would be able to understand and have the gratitude of everything that has already been given to me.
It's gonna be such a great story. I can't wait to get into it. I know that you've had a lot of heartache and you've been able to pull yourself out really by the bootstraps like a good Marine does. And I am very excited to share your message of hope with the world. So let's go back to where you were born and just tell us a little bit about your early life.
I was born and raised here in Baltimore, Maryland. I've been here my whole life except for when I was in the Marine Corps serving. But yeah, I grew up here with my mother and I used to say, and my father, but my father left when I was in first grade. So I primarily grew up with my mother. She did end up getting remarried when I was in high school. So I grew up with a stepdad, but he was more like a bigger brother, a cool uncle deal. There was no loving, caring, fatherly figure there. He was just showing me how to drive and snow ski and water ski and drive a boat, like just how to walk on dirt bikes, like cool, like a cool uncle kind of a thing. But my mother, she did the best she could. She actually went above and beyond. When my father left, she made sure I was occupied in sports. She kept me busy in major sports. I played baseball for 8 years, went into football. I was almost a professional skateboarder at one point in my life, in middle school up into high school.
Wow.
Got into boxing, did boxing for 4 years. So she really kept me engaged with other extracurricular activities. So I wasn't just home alone. And she's amazing. The first year my dad left, I have an older brother who's 11 years older than me. But when my father left, my mother, she told me, I made $10,000 in 1 year. She said, that's all I made. She put herself through college. She got a part-time job. She actually started bodybuilding. She was a bodybuilder for 10 years in the 80s.
Wow.
And in the 80s, women bodybuilders were not common. So she was winning all these trophies. She was in magazines. She was really pop out, had major, like Lou Ferrigno stayed at her house, like really cool. I got to see a really cool childhood on that side of my family. And she put herself through college, got a master's degree, ended up ultimately becoming a vice president of this huge company, making all kind of money. And
Oh my goodness.
but yeah,
Wow.
she's one of my heroes, if not my biggest hero, because she went from absolutely being destroyed, but my father leaving and showing me that no matter what, you just keep moving forward
Yeah.
and you keep pressing and you make things happen. She would always told me, nobody's going to knock on your door and offer you anything. You have to
Mm,
go out there and get it. And I remember that to this day. But I bring up my father leaving because as a 6-year-old little boy,
yeah.
growing up without a father, I thought it was my fault. I have a brother. I'm 6 or 7 years old in first grade, I believe. My brother was 16, 17. So he's got 1 year left of high school. And I'm like, why did he leave when I'm in first grade? Why did he stay around for my brother who's almost 18 years old
Yeah.
when he left me in first grade? What was wrong with me? Did I not listen? Did I not have good grades? Did I not clean up my room? Like, why didn't my father love me as much as he loved my older brother? And I say that because I completely carry that up into my adulthood. And I use that for a lot of justification of using drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
I would tell myself, if
Yeah.
one of my own parents didn't love me, why should I love myself? And it took me from age 6 to 40 years old to finally, and I was still using, but at 40 years old, I finally said, you know what? It's not my father's fault. And this was before I started getting in recovery and everything. I was like, you know what? It's not his fault. He liked chasing women. That was his thing. And
Okay.
that's ultimately that's what my mom ended up telling me. She said, Tim, it was never your fault. She's your dad liked to run around and do his own thing. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You couldn't have told me this like when I was a teenager. She said, I never knew it was an issue. I never knew that's the way you felt. I
Yeah.
would have told you right away. It had nothing to do with you. You had no reason for our divorce. I couldn't be with a man who couldn't be faithful.
Yeah.
When I was about 40 years old, I reached out to him and I said, "Hey, I forgive you." And being a egotistical narcissist that my father is, what do you mean you forgive me? I didn't do anything wrong. You
Oh
know,
boy.
that's my life. That's what I chose to do.
Yeah.
But we have a good relationship now since I've been sober,
Yeah.
and I've seen a different side of him. He's apologized sincerely with tears coming out of his eyes,
Okay.
and he's an older man now. He's 76. He'll be 77 this year. And he tells me that was the biggest mistake that he's ever made in his entire life.
Wow.
And I know it was sincere.
Yeah.
You know what I
Do
mean?
you
But
have any memories of life with him before he left the house?
I have little glimpses of memories of him. He was a police officer for 37 years. And I remember him getting up in the morning and shaving and putting on his Old Spice cologne. I remember that very vividly because that's what I saw him. And it was the old shaver where he'd put cream in a thing and
Uh-huh.
brush it on with a big brush. I remember that specifically. But as far as father son things, there was none of that. There was absolutely none of that. I got that from my stepfather when my mom started dating him. So my father, who was never baseball games, never football games, he was off running and doing his thing. And one of the biggest traumas for me as a child was when he did first leave, he would call my mother, "Hey, I'm going to come pick up Timmy this weekend. I'll take him to do this. I'll take him to do that. I'll spend some time with him." And I'm not even lying, 9 times out of 10, the phone would ring an hour or 2 before he was supposed to come and get me. "Hey, I can't come this weekend. I gotta work overtime," or something came up. It happened so much that when my mom would tell me, "Hey, your dad's coming to pick you up this weekend, go pack your bags," I wouldn't even pack my bags anymore. And my mom was like, "Why don't you pack?" I was like, "Mom, he's gonna call in 2 hours and cancel. I'm not gonna sit by the front door again for hours waiting for my dad to show up, and he doesn't show up." I
So
remember
you would
that.
do that. You would
Yeah.
pack your bag and you would sit there on the step waiting for
I
your
would
dad.
sit literally the front door opened up, the front steps came down to the front door, and I would sit on the bottom step looking outside, waiting for his truck to pull up. Hour would go by, hour and a half, and then you get that phone call. It happened too many times for me to even want to remember, but it did. But my mother, she did excellent. She took the role of my father and my mother all at once.
Yeah.
And there was no drugs or alcohol in my house.
Okay.
My mother, I've seen that woman drink 5 beers in my entire life.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, she just that wasn't her thing. She never did drugs. My father occasionally would drink at like a Christmas party or a family gathering, but again, no drugs, alcohol. My brother never did drugs, never really drank. And it wasn't readily available in my home. There was no liquor in the cabinet. There was no beer in the refrigerator. It was never around. Now, when we went to cookouts with family and friends and stuff, people would be drinking and
Mhm.
smoking cigarettes, but I never saw drugs or anything like that. So it wasn't like in my face all the time. And to
Yeah.
be honest with you, I was an athlete. I had no desire to smoke cigarettes or drink or do any of that stuff.
Yeah. So
Mm,
you started sports when you were very young in
yes, first,
elementary school.
yeah, first grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what was your favorite sport when you were that little?
That little, it was baseball.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because I was actually an all-star pitcher.
Oh,
So I was on all the all-star teams, and I was, extremely good. The more I get sober and look back on my life and look back on things that I now see my anxieties and my panic attacks started in first grade
really?
when they would call me for the last 2 innings of the game, and I had to strike out 6 people to win the game. And I remember that anxiety feel, that hot feeling I would get in my chest, like, "Oh my God, I have to do this or else we're going to lose. This is all on me." And I remember that feeling, getting amped up and excited and my mind racing. But as a young boy, you just think that's just nerves. And that's what my mom would chalk it up as. It's a lot of pressure. Use it.
Yeah.
Use it. It's just normal nerves to have. But as I got a little bit older, got in middle school, I started on the football team. I just wasn't the running back. I was an all-star running back. I was one of the
Okay.
best running backs on the team. Again, when it came down to the line, hand me the ball so I can get the 5 yards, get to the
Yeah.
touchdown. It was
So you
always
you
me.
had to, like, really take that leadership role from a very young.
Yes, I
Did you
always had.
did you feel it in the household too that you had to take over for your dad when he left?
I did because a year, let's see, I was 6, 7 years old. A year after my dad left, my brother joined the army.
Okay.
So he left. So it was basically just me and my mother in the home for about 4 years until she met my stepdad. Yeah, I did. I cut the grass. I did clean the house. I did the laundry. I was cooking for myself in 5th grade. Like my mom was working 2 jobs at that point, and she would say,
Mhm.
"This is how you do it." And I was fully functional, taking care of myself by 5th grade, doing my own laundry, making my own food, and doing everything that the man should be doing in the house. The yard be clean and
Yeah.
leaves be raked when she got home. I was actually an abnormally really good kid as far as
Sounds like it.
my room was always clean, my laundry was always done, the house was always clean, the grass
Oh,
was always cut. I never got in trouble. It wasn't until I got into later years of high school that when I started doing drugs and alcohol that all that went out the window.
yeah. What kind of student were you throughout this?
Elementary and middle school, I was A, B, C student. Mostly A's and B's. I would get a C or something here, something hard. Like I wasn't really good in mathematics, so I would always get like a C, B minus. Once I got into high school, I was B's and C's. The A's went out the window, except for
Mhm.
gym. I always got an A in gym. From kindergarten to 12th
Yeah.
grade, I got straight A's in gym. I
Yeah.
loved it. I loved being physical and doing all the sports, but I was a B and C student. Nothing really.
Okay.
The weird thing is, my senior year of high school, I made honor roll, and
Okay.
my
That's
mom's
great.
like, "You made honor roll your 12th grade year?" She said, "So that means you could have done it the
You could have done
entire
it the whole
time?"
time. At least you did it. You saw that you had that in yourself.
Yeah.
Doesn't
I
matter how many times or when, it was part of you.
I got scared myself my senior year because I was like, "Man, I'm a BC student. I don't have the grades to get into college." A lot of my friends were partying, and I didn't wanna go down that road. A lot of my friends were going to college. I was, "What are my options? Maybe if I do good this year, I'll be able to do something after high school." But it was a little too late. 1 year of doing good, they go back down to middle school to see how
Yeah.
you're doing. But I made honor roll, and she was happy about that.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where I've always known if I just put a little bit more effort into things, I could have
Yeah.
really excelled and done things in my life. I'm the guy who was super talented at every single thing that I do, but I never put in the effort because I relied on my talent.
In the sports, it seems like maybe that just came so easily to you.
Every sport, no matter what even today, I can pick up something immediately and people are like, "Wow," but hard work always beats talent every day of the week because talent just relies on talent. I don't have to work as hard because it comes naturally. While
Mhm.
this guy's over here busting his ass day in and day out, and consistency and dedication and discipline will always outbeat the guy with the talent because the talent thinks he's better than the guy that's hardworking.
Do you think your life might have taken a different course if you had applied yourself to studying?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. But you know what? I don't look at that.
No.
My path is my path. And without me going through what I've gone through, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today.
Yep.
I wouldn't be traveling the country speaking to first responders and veterans about suicide prevention and mental health and addiction. Who knows? I maybe would not have met my wife and had my children.
Yeah.
So everything happens the way that God's plan is supposed to happen. And I understand that and I accept it and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah. That's what I believe as well. It's really interesting to talk about your mom being into fitness competitions and things. When did that start when you were in high school?
It started the year after my dad left.
Oh, so even younger. Okay.
Yeah,
She must have been such an inspiration to you in so many ways.
she was. And the funny thing, it's on my dad's side of the family. My uncle was Mr. Universe in 77, 78, and 79, like late
Wow.
70s. My aunt, who my father's family's all from Germany. They came over like when he was 18. So like extremely accent, like you can barely understand what they're saying. They're completely German. But she was a seamstress.
Your aunt.
And yeah, my aunt was. And what she would do is she would hand make all the bikinis and all the swimsuits for all the bodybuilders around the world. She made all the swimsuits for the Chippendales dancers, and she made swimsuits for movies, and they were all hand stitched. And
Wow.
when my father left my mother, he actually moved into her house. She had one of those old four-story houses built in the 1800s, and each floor had its own kitchen and bathroom. And my dad lived up on top of the third floor, and you would go over to her house, and she'd be just there knitting away. But there'd be somebody. There's a gentleman named Kevin Revelle from Maryland, who was a top Mr. Olympia bodybuilder for 20 years. He would just be sitting there trying swimsuits on, or there'd be five guys from Chippendales getting their measurements done. It was like normal for me to see as a young boy, all these big bodybuilders or really pretty fitness models
Yeah.
getting their bikini, all measured and stuff like that. So my mom had that outlet as far as on my father's side, that's where it came from. And yeah, my aunt introduced her to who she needed to introduce to, and she started her fitness journey. And for 10 years, she was number one in Maryland for almost 10 years.
Wow.
And she quit because 10 years after she got into doing it, it's when the females started using steroids
Okay.
and their bodies changed from more of a fitness, really healthy bikini model to start looking like the man, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she said, I didn't want to do that to my body. So
Yeah.
that's she ultimately stopped doing bodybuilding, and then she became a fitness trainer and a teacher at community college down here in Maryland. And she taught that for 27 years.
So
Yeah. She
interesting.
she would be a vice president during the day, 9 to 5. She'd come home and Monday, Wednesday, and Friday go teach college classes to the kids for and health and dietitian. And yeah, she did it for 27 years.
That's
I was
amazing. She's such an amazing role model that you had in your life there.
yeah,
But I know that you did in high school begin to experiment then with some substances. Can you talk
yes.
about that time of your life? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, ninth grade comes around, and a buddy of mine has a welcome to high school freshman party. So everybody in the surrounding middle schools went to this party because at that time, the three closest middle schools to the high school were all going to eventually go to the same high school. So we got this big party. Everybody get to know each other, and that was the first time I ever drank alcohol.
Okay.
And I remember getting so sick. My mother came and picked me up the next morning, and she was like, "You drank last night, didn't you?" I was like, "Yeah." She's, "I can tell." She's, "I'm not going to punish you because the rest of your weekend is ruined, but we're having a cookout today, and I need 50 ears of corn shucked." She said, "So you're going to go into the basement. You're going to shuck all 50 ears of the corn. Here's a bag for the corn, and here's a bag for you to get sick." She said, "That's going to be your punishment." And that was the end of it. And I was sick the entire weekend. And I was like, "I'm not ever drinking again." And that held up all the way until the summer before going into senior year.
Okay.
The summer before going into senior year, I decided to join the Marine Corps because I was like, you know what? I don't have the grades to go into college. A lot of my friends were getting in trouble. Or people that I knew, because I was friends with a lot of people, but one group was getting into trouble. One group was going to college. And I was somewhere stuck in the middle. I was like, you know what? My brother was in the army, my father was in the army, both my grandfather was in the army. I'm gonna go join the military, and that's what I'm gonna do. So this summer before senior year comes around, I join up, and I decided, you know what, this year I'm gonna have some fun.
Oh,
When I graduate, I leave for boot camp a month after I graduate. So let me just get it out of my system. That's what my thought was. Let me go have some fun, get it out of my system now. And I started going to parties and start drinking alcohol. And I noticed that once I started drinking alcohol and it got into my system, my wall came down. And I was at that time, what else is here? Let me try some things because at the end of the year, I'm not going to be able to do all this. So I started smoking pot, started taking LSD, eating mushrooms, painkillers whenever they came around. Believe it or not, there was PCP prevalent my senior year of high school. So I tried PCP a couple times, opium. Good thing I never was subjected to or around cocaine or heroin,
okay.
which I'm so glad because at that time in my early adulthood, I would have tried it.
Yeah.
And who knows what would have happened. But everything else that was around, like ecstasy or going to raves and staying up for 8 hours, tripping, and all that, I was all into that. And I did that my entire senior year of high school. And I still got on honor roll. And it's funny because, well, it's not funny, but a lot of people who say that they're functioning addicts or alcoholics,
Yeah.
I would do things that people who weren't drinking or drugging couldn't do. And here I am partying and I'm still able to come and outwork you and do better than you. So that kind of gave me an ego complex of,
Mhm.
could you imagine if I wasn't drinking or drugging, how much I could completely blow you out of the water? You have no idea what I'm doing extracurricular, and I'm coming here and I'm still outworking you. So
So you thought
that
you were
stuck
kind
with
of
me.
invincible then?
Absolutely. 100%. Even up until I got put into rehab,
Yeah.
as a carpenter, I would drink all night. I'd wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and outwork 2 guys at the job and get it done quicker and faster and would look better.
Yeah.
And in the back of my mind, I'll be like, "You guys have no idea. As soon as I leave here, I crack open a beer, I get some whiskey, and that's what I do for the rest of the night, and then tomorrow morning, I'll be back, and I'll run circles around you guys."
Yeah. Wow. That takes a strong constitution.
Yeah. Yeah. Here I am thinking I don't like structure
Okay.
because that's what I told myself. I don't want to be told what to do and how to do it, and I'm telling myself how to do things the same every single day. I've been really looking into a lot of how our mind works like that,
Yeah.
with substance abuse and alcoholism
Yeah.
and mental health, because I do have bipolar disorder, but it's funny how you tell yourself certain things for so long, you finally start to believe it.
Yeah. That's
Whether it's good or bad, like the saying goes, if a guy says he can or a guy says he can't, they're both right.
yeah,
'Cause
but that's a really interesting point because that's one of the things I try to remember is that just because you're thinking it doesn't mean it's true.
correct.
Your thoughts are not facts.
No,
And trying to
you're
figure out the difference between the ones you should listen to and the ones that you shouldn't listen to. That's a lifelong struggle.
I've come to understand that as long as it's positive and it affects someone in a positive way or a positive manner or brings somebody peace and happiness, then that's the one I'm listening to.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the other one is not really me.
Right.
It's something else that knows I'm doing good and it knows I'm helping people and it wants to throw a little wrench in there and be like, I'm still here.
Yeah. Like
You know,
the devil
I can,
on your shoulder
yeah,
kind of
I
thing.
can still derail you anytime I want. All you gotta do is listen to just one thing I'm putting in your mind.
So you're trying to block that.
I've learned how to put that at bay. I
Mhm.
really had people ask me, you got 2 years sober after 27 years of alcohol and drugs. Has it been easy? It has, because I chose it. And I finally made up my mind. Enough was enough. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I simply just say, no, no, it's not going to happen again. I had that switch that happens, which I'll explain a little bit in when I get to the point of my story, but the switch happened. They
Yeah.
always talk about that when the switch happens, your life changes. My switch happened. It only took me 27 years, but it
Yeah.
finally happened.
It's interesting to think about what is the catalyst for the switch when that happens. Because I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of times people can't pinpoint one particular thing. It's like a progression.
It can be,
How was it for you?
it was one particular spiritual awakening that completely changed my life. As a matter of fact, I've had two, but I ignored the first one.
Okay.
I completely ignored the first one. And so what happened was I go into the Marine Corps and the drugs stopped, but the drinking escalated because that's what we could do. So
Okay.
when we got off at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we would go to the bars and the strip clubs outside of base. And their motto was, if you're old enough to take a bullet for the country, you're old enough to have a cold beer.
Were
So
you
they
about 18 then?
18, 19, 20,
Okay.
and our drinking age is 21.
Yeah.
But to them, if you're old enough to die for the country, you could have a cold beer. So they would serve us. The only stipulation was you couldn't stand by the bar with the beer in your hand in case an authority figure walked in. You have to go up to the bar and order it, go back to a table and sit it on the table unless you were taking a sip out of it. But other than that, they would serve you all night long. And we would see our sergeants in the same bar, late 20s, early 30s. And they would just say, don't get in a fight. Don't get locked up. Make sure your ass is up at 3:30 in the morning and at formation at 4 o'clock, ready to go. So there was no deterrent of, you guys really shouldn't be in here. You're underage. It was a badge of honor. How much can you party and still get up and do what you have to do? So we were molded into doing it. We were 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Nothing could take us down. That's how we were. I hate to use the word, but brainwashed. They tear you down. They build you up the way you're completely invincible and nothing can take you out. And that's how I
How
was
you thought
taught.
of yourself.
That's how I thought of myself. But I ended up getting out of the Marine Corps, coming home. And the first month was great. I didn't have to get up 3:30 in the morning. I didn't have to go running 3 miles a day. I didn't have to shave every day. It was, I
Yeah.
could just relax. But the second month home hit, and I was like, okay, I'm back at my mom's house. I'm 20, 21 years old. I don't have a job. I don't have a car. I got to start paying my mom some rent, helping out with the electric. And the third month came and I fell into a deep depression because now I'm like, I don't have the identity of being a Marine anymore.
Yeah.
What am I going to do now? I'm a piece of shit. I don't have a job. I'm coming to be 21 years old. All my friends are either in college or already started working, but I just got out of the military. What am I going to do now? And I was still drinking every day. I'd never stopped, but I started smoking pot and taking painkillers since I've been home because I now don't have the drug tests. And I'm sitting at home one day and my mind's racing and I'm going through everything. And I decided to go into my father's armoire and I grabbed some of that. And luckily at the time, I had the right mind to call my girlfriend. And I called her and I said, hey, something's wrong. I'm sitting here looking at a gun in my lap. I don't know what I'm doing. I need help. And within 5 minutes, she came over to the house. She took it from me, put it back in my stepfather's armoire. When my mother came home that evening, I told my mom, I said, Mom, something's wrong. I need to go see somebody. I didn't tell her I just had a gun in my lap a couple hours earlier. She would have freaked out, had me committed. And like, I wasn't trying to admit I needed that kind of help yet.
Yeah.
But what she did was she made doctor's appointments for me that next following week, and we got in there, and I started talking to them, and that's when they officially diagnosed me with bipolar 1 manic depressive disorder.
Wow.
What I wanna tell people, the first thing to do is to put you on medication because you have a chemical imbalance, your emotions are out of whack, they try to stabilize you and bring you down to a moderate level. Be honest with your doctors if you're going to see somebody that is going to prescribe your medicine, whether it's for a mental illness, heart disease, liver, kidneys, whatever you have going on. If they're giving you medicine, if you're using drugs and alcohol, the medicines are not going to work the way that they are designed to work. And I never told my doctors, I'm drinking every day, I'm smoking pot, I'm taking painkillers whenever I get a chance. So when I would go back every 30, 60, or 90 days, whenever the checkup would be, and they would ask me, how are the medicines working? I would say they're not. I don't know what's going on. Things have gotten worse. This shit isn't working. Okay. And their solution was maybe that medicine just doesn't work for the makeup of your DNA. Let's try these medicines over here. Let's try these milligrams. Let's try this cocktail. And that went on from 21 all the way up until I went into rehab at 44,
Oh my God.
on and off medicines.
Wow. That's so hard on the body and the
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
Was there anything in your experience in the military that was traumatic that might have contributed to your mental state when you came home?
Yeah. We did 3 months in Somalia for training. It wasn't during wartime. I'm not a combat veteran, but just seeing a third world country like that after a war and the effects on its people. And I didn't think at the time it affected me. I was like, this is what we do. This is what we're trained to do. We're just over here for training. But when I came home and we were back in North Carolina, something happened. I remember thinking, why did we go over there and kill people? Because war, there's always a ulterior motive to war.
Yeah.
It's not just people against people. There's somebody pulling a string somewhere saying, if we go over there and do this, it's going to benefit us over here. We're going to get something over here. There's always something around war that it's not just people fighting.
Yeah.
There's something go, and I'm like,
Oh,
what am I standing up for? What am I love my country. I want to defend my country, but why are we going into these other people's countries and killing them? So I got like do I really want to do this? Because I was
yeah.
0311 infantry. I was trained to be a rifleman. My life expectancy in war was 3 seconds. And I knew that and I wanted to do that. And now all of a sudden I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know
You
if
didn't
this
know
is
what you were fighting for anymore.
I didn't know what I was standing up for. I didn't know what this was all about.
Clearly
18,
wasn't about what you thought it was about.
yeah, absolutely. At
You weren't
18, you're
defending your country against something at that point.
exactly
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So why are we invading these countries? And it's been happening for hundreds of years. It's been
Yeah.
happening forever. So it just gave me a different look on
Different
being in
perspective.
the military. And some of the training that we did, I sometimes have nightmares about. There's one where you're put into a helicopter fuselage and they put blackout goggles on you and they lift you 30 feet over a swimming pool and they drop it down and it hits the water and it flips upside down. And you have to find your way out of the helicopter while holding your breath. And I've had dreams over and over again that I can't find the hatch to get out and I'm drowning. I'm drowning. I wake up gasping for air. That was probably one of the most, if not the most traumatic training that I went through because I still have dreams about it. When I was 19, 20 years old when I did that training. But that was, I remember being scared to do that training. And luckily I did it on my first try. And if you do it on your first try, you don't have to do it again. But there was people that didn't get it on the first, second, third try. And they kept making them going back into the pool and doing it over, kept dropping them and dropping them until they finally were able to get out. So
That's
it's,
crazy.
yeah. And we had a traumatic event in boot camp. So we started with 183 recruits in my platoon. We ended up graduating with only, I think, 82. So 100 of them didn't make it through and they were let out of the military. But during one of our training weeks, which was a combat swim class, we're all in the swimming pool. There was about 300 of us. So when the drill instructor would talk to us, he would say eyeballs. And then everybody would turn their head and say, snap, sir, and look right at the drill instructor because that means he was about to speak to everybody and your eyes were on him listening to him. And come to find out, this gentleman was going through a bad divorce with his wife. He was an alcoholic, and he climbed up to the top of where the diving board was so everybody could see him. And he says, eyeballs. Everybody said, snap, sir. And he took a machine gun and he shot himself in front of all of us. He falls into the pool. Yeah. Yeah. And we found out later that his wife and him were going through a bad divorce. He was alcoholic and he was very depressed. But he did that in front of 380 some recruits. And I'm pretty sure I might be kidding. Half of those people left boot camp after that. They didn't want to be there anymore.
Yeah. I'm not
Yeah.
surprised.
Yeah. But he made newspapers and it was national news at that time, 1994. Yeah. I remember my grandmother who lived in Hawaii contacted my father and said, "Did that happen when Timmy was in boot camp?" And he's like, "Yeah, it happened. He was there. He saw, oh my gosh, he needs to get out." At that time, I'm like, I'm trained to be a Marine. I want to see death. I want to see people get shot. It's not a big deal to me. I was that focused on becoming a Marine.
Wow. Oof. That's so heavy. I don't know how you
Yeah.
get over something like that.
I don't know if it's unique, but I've been able just to shut things out of my life, which I don't think it's a good thing. I can be a very cold person, which just made me mad at some point because if I can just say no and cut things off, why didn't I do it with my drugs and alcohol? Why did it take me so long to finally say enough's enough? When I have the ability, just if somebody wrongs me or treats me wrong or disrespects me, I'm like, okay, I'm done with you. Don't ever call me again. And I don't even think about it again. It's just like it's erased out of my mind. I don't think about it. Why couldn't I have done that with my drugs and alcohol? And the only solution I came up with is because I was in so much pain that I just wanted to escape reality as much as possible whenever I could for as long as I could. I didn't want to leave Earth. I didn't want to die, but I sure as hell didn't want to be cognate in the world. I just wanted just to be there.
Yeah.
And in my 30s, yeah, I was lost. That's another thing. I've had 46 jobs since being out of the Marine Corps.
Wow. Okay.
A lot of them's been all in the carpentry field, but with different companies. But I couldn't hold a job because of being on and off my medicines, drinking, taking drugs. I wouldn't get focused at work, or I'd go in for 3 months and be the next best employee that anybody's ever seen, and then I would just not wanna go back. I would just get bored with it. "That's not for me. I'm not doing it
Mhm.
anymore. I'll just go get another job." And that's been like that consistent my entire life.
Wow.
Now, luckily, the last 11 years have been steady with only 3 companies in carpentry, but I've always thought I had a bigger purpose in life, and I think that's why I've been always searching and using the drugs and alcohol because I never really knew my purpose. I never really knew why I was here. Even as a little kid, I know parents say this to you, but my mom was like, "You're special. There's something different about you. You have a purpose. You're here for that," which I know a lot of parents say that to their children, but I always believed it.
Mhm.
I always believe there is something different with me because I am different than most of my friends. I always
Mhm.
stand out in the crowd. People always attract to me. I was always good at everything I've done. I'm a decent looking guy. Everything has always came to me very easily in
Mhm.
life. So I always figured I was entitled to it all,
But
which
what was
I
the feeling like? What were you getting from the drugs and alcohol that you needed?
numbness
Okay.
to not feel
Did you have self-confidence?
always. Yeah. And I think that's was a problem. I had too much self
Too much
confidence.
self-confidence, too much ego.
too much ego. Absolutely. My
and you were
entire
just
life.
numbing. But somewhere in that time, you obviously met your wife. When did that happen?
So my wife and I actually have known each other since middle school.
Oh,
We went to the same middle school. We went to the same high school, but we were just friends.
okay.
She lived a couple blocks over from me. And funny enough, in high school, she was one of my really good friends' girlfriend all through high school.
Uh,
I would always go over his house and she'd be there. And coincidentally enough, he was the guy that sold pot. So I would always be at his house picking up
okay.
pot or getting LSD from him. And she was his girlfriend. So she's always been like an actual friend pretty much my entire life since like sixth grade. One of the girlfriends that always hung out with the guys
In your group of
and
friends.
my always went camping with us, was always
Okay.
listening to music with us, just a really cool chick. Basically, like she was just one of the guys.
Okay.
When I got back from the Marine Corps, I ended up going to my buddy's house for a party one night and she was there. And I was like, hey, how you doing? I haven't seen you in years. How's Jonathan? Oh, we broke up 2 years ago. I'm like, really? You guys were together since like eighth grade. What happened? I just things changed. I was like, wow. So if you ever want to go out and watch a movie or do something, let me know. She'll tell you the story that she wanted nothing to do with me because I was known for having a girlfriend for a week or two, getting what I wanted and
Oh,
moving on to the next
okay.
girl. So she
Okay.
really wanted nothing to do with me at that time. But I ended up getting her phone number from my buddy and I called her house every day for 2 weeks.
Ah.
And this is home phone. So the mom would pick up.
Yep.
Oh, she's not here. She's not here. She's not here. Finally, at the end of 2 weeks, Jennifer, he's called her 2 weeks straight. Pick up the phone. Then she ended up picking up the phone. I told her, hey, I got your number for. She funny thing was she was just on the phone with his girlfriend and she said, Tim's gonna call you. So she already knew I was calling. She already knew it was a setup. And
Okay.
I said, hey, can we hang out one night and come over? And it started out just me going over and we would order some food. And the good old days, we'd go to Blockbuster and get a movie
Yeah.
and I sit there and just chill and watch a movie. And it literally just started because we were friends, just hanging out together. Nothing intimate, nothing like that. Just old friends hanging back out again. And after a couple months, it just turned into more than that. And we've been together ever since 1995.
Wow.
Yeah, so she's my best friend.
Aw. So
Absolutely.
she knew that you were drinking. She knew that you were doing some drugs at that time,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
her eyes were open to that world anyway, so she didn't mind. She didn't
Yeah,
think there was
no, and I would say she's a normie, as we call them in recovery.
okay,
She could have a beer or two on a Friday and not have another beer until next Friday. You know what I
okay,
mean? She could smoke a joint and not do it again until a party come up or a gathering or a social functioning. She was a normal person that would every once in a while like to cut loose.
yeah, gotcha.
But no, it wasn't a issue in my early 20s as far as I wasn't missing work, I wasn't being a nasty person, I wasn't taking care of my responsibilities. I was just drinking. And I guess she looked at it as we're in our 20s, we're single, we're together, you know what I mean? We don't have any kids. We're just having a good time in our
Yep,
20s.
yeah,
And then we had our first daughter, we moved in together, bought a house. I'm still going to work, still drinking every day. But that's when she started to notice that the six pack started to become a 12 pack
okay.
on the Friday, and then a Friday, then 12 packs would become a case.
Wow,
And I wouldn't finish the case Sunday. So then that would trickle over into Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. And then I would justify tomorrow's Thursday. And then Friday, I might as well get another case. And then the case ended up being a staple in a refrigerator
yeah,
as an always thing. At that time, still, I didn't like drinking liquor. I was just a beer person. And I like smoking my weed and taking my painkillers wherever I could get a handle. To me, I was still in control,
yeah,
as I would say. But I got up into my 30s. I was 32. I lost another job. And my wife said, what's going on? You haven't been able to keep a job. We've been together since we were 20 for 12 years. The longest you've kept a job is a year. Like, what's
mhm,
going on? Why can't you keep a job? And here she is. We've been together 28 years. She's only had two jobs the entire time. She's on 15 years at this job. The first job was 12 or whatever, or 13 years.
yeah,
I'm like, I don't know. I'm lost. I don't have self confidence. I don't know what I want to do. I want to do sports again. She's, what do you mean you want to do sports? You're 32. I'm like, I think I want to go fight again. I miss one-on-one competition. And I think I want to go do some MMA. And this is just how great she is. She's, I'll give you a year. She said, bills are paid. We're good. She's, I'll give you a year. If you can turn this into making money and you're doing something with it, You can continue to do it. If you're not making money after a year, if you get hurt or anything like that, you got to let it go. You got to go back and get a job. We just had our second child and she was a baby. She said, I'll give you 1 year. So that 1 year ended up within 6 months. I had my first fight. And that 1 year ended up going on for 3 years. I was fighting up and down the East Coast, Maryland, Virginia, DC, Philadelphia, Atlantic City, New Jersey. And I was making okay money, like 1,500 to 2,000 a fight. And
Okay.
they would allow you to fight every 90 days. So it was more of a hobby,
Yeah.
but I was bringing money in.
Yeah.
So to her, it wasn't a wash.
Yeah.
But at 35 years old, my last fight, I ended up tearing my rotator cuff
Okay.
and I had major surgery. And she was like, that's it. You're done. You had fun. You had a 3 year run. That's it. No more. Now you have to have surgery. You're going to be laid up for God knows how long, which I ended up being laid up for 9 months. But that started a 4 year long pain pill prescription addiction to
Okay.
Oxycontins.
So then it got worse.
Then it got really bad because my doctors were giving it to me, and we're talking 35, 11 years ago.
Okay.
So they didn't have the perimeters that thankfully they're putting in place today.
Yeah.
I could just go to my primary care doctor and say, I need more.
Oh,
And,
and they would
and
just
he,
give you
and he
more.
would just write, I didn't have to go to a pain management clinic. I didn't have to
Yeah.
go to a specialist. I would just go to him and he would just write me the script.
Yeah.
And it would start it off. I'll give you hydrocodone. 30, 60 days. I go back, "Ah, this ain't doing it. Give me something stronger. Okay, I'll give you Percocets." And I'd go back, oh, they're messing up my stomach. Gave me cramps. What do you got? We got this new pill that just came out. It's not addictive. You can take it and just stop it. They're called Oxycontins. They're the best new thing. And that's how I guess the insurance company were promoting it to these doctors. There's no
Wow.
side effects. You could just stop taking it and not have withdrawal.
Yeah.
So that's what I got on. I was taking 20 milligram Oxycontins every day. I was taking 8 to 10 per day.
Oh my gosh.
I was
Wow.
drinking 12 to 18 beers a day on top of that
Well,
and smoking about a quarter of weed every single day. And
crazy.
it got to the point where I legitimately got scared.
Yeah. Were
I
you
rem
working at that time? Were you able to work?
Yeah, I was working. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's funny because I don't know how if it's normal, but when I took pain pills, it was like I took speed.
Oh, okay.
It would wake me up and allow me to work faster and harder, and I concentrated on things where I guess a normal person, if they took pain pills, they'd be sleeping on the couch for 2 or 3 hours, like, it's
Yeah.
because that's the way it's supposed to work. But I
Agree.
guess with my bipolar and my imbalance of chemicals, that it affected me completely differently. It
Okay.
was like I took a hit of speed, and within 15 minutes, I wanted to get up and start doing stuff.
Wow.
And that was a big sign to my wife. She's like, "How come every time you take pain pills, within a half an hour, 45 minutes, you're cleaning the house. You can't stop, or you're outside cutting the grass. You're supposed to be relaxing." That's how I knew you had the disease of addiction because it completely affected you differently than it does a normal person that would take a pain pill.
Yeah.
But no, it got to the point I got scared. And I remember sitting on my bed and I'm like, man, I'm going to take these pain pills and drink this beer one night. And my body's going to say, you know what? Screw you. I'm done. And I'm not going to wake up in the morning because I've been taking this for almost 4 years now. Even though I'm used to doing that every day, my body is not comprehending that yes, I'm not supposed to be doing this. And that's what happens. People take what they normally take
Yep.
that they've been taking for such a long time and they think it's okay and they go to sleep and they don't wake up.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting on my bed and I'm like, man, I'm not gonna die in my sleep. I was like, screw this. If I'm dying, I'm doing it myself. And I reach over and I grab my pill bottle and I dump it out of my hand. And there was 18, 20 milligram oxys. I take all 18 of them and I go out into the living room and I drink a 12 pack of beer within 45 minutes.
Oh
I
gosh.
remember going back into my bedroom and laying on the bed and I said, please God, don't let me wake up. I can't live this way anymore. And I don't know how to stop. I don't want to live this way anymore. And I remember, I don't remember past that. I remember waking up the next evening, like 16, 18 hours later. I remember it was like 7, 8 o'clock at night the next day. And I wake up and my first thought was, holy shit, I didn't die. And my second thought was to get immediately up and go into the bathroom and grab my pill bottle of 30, my refill, and dump it down the toilet. And I dumped it down the toilet. And I remember looking myself in the mirror and I said, I don't care how bad this gets. We are never taking pain medicine again. remember this feeling because we're never doing this again. And for the next 10 days of my life, I was the sickest I have ever been in my entire life. The full gambit of coming off of opioids after 4 years. And the throwing up, the nausea, the insomnia, the racing thoughts, the sweats, the night terrors, everything you can imagine. And after 10 of being completely sick and drained and tired, not leaving the house, I decided to jump in my truck and go get some fresh air and go drive down this beautiful reservoir that we have here in Maryland that people go, they hike and they bike and they walk their dogs and they picnic and they go fishing. It's a really beautiful, nice public reservoir. And I'm driving through the reservoir and I'm crying and I'm yelling up at the sky. Why did I live? Why am I here? What's my purpose? If you love me and you created me, why are you allowing me to suffer so bad? I don't believe you exist because if you love us so bad, why am I suffering? What did I do to do all that to get this suffering from you? I don't understand. And I'm driving through the park and I get to this tree where in 1996, my best friend lost control of his vehicle, hit the tree, and unfortunately lost his life at the age of 18. And at this tree, his parents set up a little vigil. They have a picture of him up on the tree. There's a little vase that's nailed to the tree. You can put flowers in there, and they have a book there that's covered in plastic still to this day that you can write to him. And I pull up to the tree and I'm crying. And I'm like, I put my hand on the tree. I'm like, Bill, I need a sign, man. I need to know that I'm not alone. I need to know that there's something else out there besides myself because I don't believe if something loves me so much that it would allow me to suffer. I don't know my purpose in life. I just need a sign that I'm not alone, that there's something watching out over me. And I get in my truck and I go to leave the park. As I'm driving, I'm crying and I'm snotting. So I pull over to the side of the road. But for some reason, I don't pull over on the right-hand side of the road as I'm driving. I pull over on the left-hand side where cars will be coming towards me, facing the wrong side of the road. I'm blowing my nose and wiping my eyes. And 5, 10 minutes goes by and a car pulls up in front of me. I watch the man get out of his vehicle. He opens up the back door. He's about to take his dog and walk him across the street where the water is. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, man, I kind of look so familiar. I can't place it. This is March 16th, 2017. I'll never forget this day. And I look at him and I'm like, oh my God, that's Mr. Bill, my best friend Bill's father, whom I haven't seen since December 27th, 1996, the day of my friend's funeral. And I get out of the vehicle and I say, Mr. Bill, is that you? And he looks at me. He's Timmy? He's, what's wrong? What are you doing here? So I'm an alcoholic. I'm an addict. I don't know why I live. I try taking my own life. I'm lost. And he walks over to me and he puts his hand on my shoulder and he says, Timmy, I'm not supposed to be here this morning. My wife came to me in a dream last night and told me to come here at 10 a.m. this morning to walk the dog. I'm supposed to be in South Carolina at a family reunion trip. I was supposed to leave at 6 a.m. this morning. My bags are packed in the truck. I believe my wife sent me here to see you. And I looked at him. I said, Mr. Bill, I just stopped at Billy's tree and asked him for a sign that I wasn't alone, that there was something else watching out over me. And he hugged me. He says, Timmy, we're going to be okay. They're watching out over us. They're around us. And for 10 minutes, as I'm driving out of the park, I got that elated feeling like, okay, everything's going to be okay. I'm going to be all right. Something's watching out over me. And just like that, my addiction twists it and says, you're right. Nothing is going to happen to you. Everything is going to be all right. You're being protected. So you don't have to stop drinking because nothing is going to happen to you. And the next 4 years of my life, I drank the most alcohol I've ever drank in my entire life up until I went into rehab and the beer turned into whiskey. The beer just wasn't doing it for me anymore. That pain pill, when you would take it, you would get that warm blanket feeling that went down your body. Toes would tingle, your hands, everything would just feel like somebody has a warm blanket over you. And I was missing that feeling from the alcohol. So I decided to get these little miniature shots of Fireball to try them out. Now, I wasn't really a liquor drinker. I just didn't like it. But I remember taking that first miniature and within 15 seconds, that warmth went down my body, got to my toes, and I was, oh, this kind of feels like a pain pill. And it was like immediate. I didn't have to wait. 15, 20 minutes for the effect. Within a minute, I could feel it through my body. So it just started getting 4 or 5 of them a day, still picking up my beer, and then eventually the last full year of my drinking before I went into rehab, I completely stopped drinking beer. I would stop in the morning at 6:30 before work. I would grab a sleeve of Fireball, which is 10 miniatures in a pack. I would drink all 10 of them by 1:30. During my lunch break, I would go to the next liquor store. I would get 10 more. I would drink all of them till about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then I would be back at the liquor store getting another 10, and I would drink 5 to 10 of those before I passed out at 9 o'clock. So that last year, I was drinking 25 to 30 Fireball miniatures every single day.
Oh my
W
gosh, wow.
1 miniature is 2.5 shots. So 2.5 times 25 to 30, I'm drinking upwards anywhere between 50 to 70 shots of Fireball every single day.
So what
Uh,
was your wife doing at this time? What was she thinking? She talked to you about it?
yeah, she was at the point where it was almost the end. Like, she was giving me ultimatums.
Did she
Funny,
know that you had just going back to the day that you had tried to take your own life with the pills? Did she know what was going on at that
she did
time?
she didn't know until a couple of days later when she was like, "Why are you so sick?"
Okay.
And
Okay.
I told her, I said, "I stopped taking pain pills." I took a bunch. I didn't tell her in specifics. I said, "I took a bunch of them the other night so I could sleep." I played it off, and then I woke up and I was like, "I'm not doing this anymore." She said, "Well, at least that's positive. That's good."
Mm.
She didn't find out until I got sober and I started doing these podcasts.
Okay.
So 11 years later, because I know I have to be honest and truthful now, and I have to tell her everything that I've done. So she knows the extent of how serious it was in my addiction. Because I did. We're manipulators. We hide things well, or at least we think we hide them well, but we do anything we can not to let people know exactly how deep our depression or our sickness is, because then that would mean we'd have to be accountable to ourselves and we would have to finally admit to ourselves how sick we really are.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that last year came and she was getting fed up. She was getting me ultimatums. So you
And
gotta
I
stop
imagine it
drinking.
it was probably taking a financial toll on your marriage.
It
That's a
was,
lot of money buying all that
it
booze.
is. I was making good money as a
Okay.
carpenter. I was making over $40 an hour working for myself. But yeah, no, it still was.
Yeah.
What happened to your paycheck? You just got
Yeah.
paid Friday. We have bills due. You got $400 left in your paycheck. Yeah, it absolutely did a financial strain. Yeah, I was spending 175 to $250 a week on liquor.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's not including me buying my marijuana,
Yeah.
and that
So
was
over
probably
$1,000 a month usually on
oh, yeah,
various
easy.
things. Gotcha.
Absolutely. Yeah, I should have been driving a really nice Mercedes.
Yeah.
I look back on it now, I'm like, "Man, I could have had a really nice car payment."
You could. Oh my
But,
goodness.
yeah, but, yeah, she came up with ultimatums, and bless her heart, she would never really stick to them.
She sounds like a wonderful woman.
Yeah.
You got to that point, you were drinking the most that you had ever drank in your life, and she was giving you ultimatums. This is a woman who's been with you all this time, and she's even had enough.
Yeah.
And then at some point, something happened that caused you to go into rehab.
Yes. I get a brand new truck. I have it for about a month, and maybe 2 months, might be stretching it, but it's brand new, so I have temporary tags on it. And I'm driving home from the liquor store and I hit something. And I honestly still to this day have no idea what I hit. I don't know if it was a parked car. I have one of those concrete barriers on the side of the road, a median. I have no idea what I hit still to this day. But I was close enough to I was able to pull into my driveway. And I remember getting out and walking in the front door and telling her, I hit something with my truck. I'm not dealing with this shit tonight. I'm going to bed. And I go into the bedroom and pass out. I wake up the next morning like a good blackout alcoholic. Hey, good morning. I'm going to go to the grocery store and get milk and bread. Do we need anything else for breakfast? And she's like, how are you going to do that? I'm like, in my truck in the drive. I have a brand new truck. She's like, Tim, go outside and look at your truck. I'm like, okay. So I go outside. Driver's side's fine. I go around to the passenger side. My side mirror is missing off the truck, and my front right tire is hanging off the rim and it pushed up underneath the front bumper. And I'm just sitting there looking at it, and she pops her head out the front door, and "You have no idea what you hit last night, do you?" I said, "I don't." She said, "Tim, you could have killed yourself. You could have killed somebody else. I don't know what you're doing, but you can't stay here anymore. I don't want you around the girls. I don't want you in this house. You have to leave and go figure this out. I'm done. I don't want you here anymore." So I called AAA. They came over and they put my spare tire on, and I packed a couple days worth of clothes. I call my buddy. I'm like, "Hey, can I come and stay at your house for a couple of days? Let her cool down. She'll let
Yeah.
me back in a
Right.
couple of days." And he's, "Sure, man, come on over. You can hang out here for a couple of days." So I get to his house. We talked about an hour or whatever, told him what was going on. And he's, "Man, it's Friday night. Your wife kicked you out. We might as well go to the bar and have some drinks."
Oh
And
boy.
I'm like, "You know what? That sounds like a great idea, because now I have a
Uh-oh.
justifiable reason to go to the bar and drink, because my wife just kicked me out of the house." So we go to the bar, we drank, I get completely shit faced. And this is less than like 15 hours after hitting something. As I'm leaving the bar, I rear end somebody at a red light.
Oh,
And I get out. Luckily, the guy had one of those tow hitches on the back of his truck. His truck was fine, but the tow hitch was now embedded in my front of my bumper. My bumper was all beat around it.
my God.
And I get out, I'm like, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." I said, "Well, your truck's fine. You're okay, right?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, I'm out of here." I slapped him on his back. I jumped in my truck and I took off, because I knew if the cops were coming, I was going to jail for DUI. My truck was
Yeah.
getting impounded. I was getting some major trouble.
Yeah.
So I left the scene. I took off. I get to my buddy's house. I'm like, "Man, I can't stay here. I just want to be by myself. I'm just going to grab my stuff and just go sleep in my truck somewhere." He's like, "You sure?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got to be by myself." I leave his house. I stop at the liquor store, get my miniatures, and I go and I park my truck at a park and ride for 48 hours. I turn my phone off. I don't want to hear from nobody. I just want to be by myself and wallow in my sorrows and think about everything that I've done over the last 20 some years, well, disappointments and arguments that I may have caused, or jobs that I've lost, and tell myself that my kids were better off without me. They deserved a better dad, and my wife deserved a better husband, and my parents deserved a better son. Just really doing the whole woe is me. I'm a piece of crap, drunk, alcoholic, addict, just pouring it on myself. And for 48 hours, I would just drink and pass out, and listen to sad music and get more depressed and drink and
Mhm.
passed out. That was what I did for 2 full days. And finally, on March 5th, 2021, at 7 after 10 a.m. in the morning, I turned my phone on, and it's been 48 hours. 2 minutes later, the phone rings. And I don't recognize the number. It says Westchester, Pennsylvania. And I'm like, I don't know who this is. But for some reason, I pick it up and I'm like, hello, it's my childhood friend, Brandon Novak. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's one of the members of the Jackass crew and Viva La Bam.
Oh, no.
He was the gentleman in the crew that had the biggest and longest drug addiction.
Mm.
And he has turned his life around. He's got 7.5 years sober, and now he travels the world and speaks on addiction and mental illness, and he's really 180 his life completely.
Yeah.
But he's on the other line, and he's lodging. "What the F are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm cold, I'm hungry, I'm drunk, and I'm tired." And he says, "Good. That's what you need." "I just got off the phone with your wife and your mother. I have a plane ticket set for you this evening at 8:30 tonight. I got you into Banyan Treatment Centers down in West Palm Beach, Florida. I want you to get on that plane and go get your life back." And I'm on the phone like, okay, I just am agreeing with them so I could just hang up the phone, because to be honest with you, I didn't want to hear it. I'm half drunk. I just didn't want to hear it. "Okay, man. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Call me when you're on the way to the airport." I'm like, okay, okay, okay. I hang up the phone. My wife calls like 5 minutes later. "Where are you? People are worried sick. We haven't been able to get in touch with you for 2 days. I just got off the phone with Brandon. Can you please come home and take a shower and try to eat something, pack your bags and maybe take a nap?" Because I had about 4 to 5 hours till I had to be at the airport. I'm like, okay, okay, I'll come home. I go home, I pack my bags, and I take a shower. I couldn't eat and I couldn't take a nap. My mind was racing. My anxiety was kicking in. My panic was kicking in. I'm like, oh my God, how did I let my life get this bad to where I have to go to rehab in another state? He didn't tell me how long I'm going for. Is it 30, 60 days? Is it a 6 month program? Oh my God, I can't believe I allowed my life to get so out of control that I now have to go to rehab. What about my job? What about my kid? Just going through everything in my
Yeah.
mind. And I'm sitting on the bed and I'm talking myself out of going. I'm like, I can't
Mhm.
go. I can't do this. There's no way I can do this. I can't do it. And one last time, I say my addiction knew that I think It knew it was its last chance. And my addiction says, you don't have to go. Take my hand and come with me. And it walks me to the basement of my home and tells me to throw a rope around my neck and stand up on the bucket and ease the pain. And I listen. And I go down to the basement of my home and throw a rope around my neck and I stand up on the bucket. And it tells me to step off, just ease the pain. And my wife realizes I'm not in the bedroom. She comes looking for me. She comes down to the basement of our home and she sees me in the corner of the basement in the dark, hysterically crying with a rope around my neck, standing on this 5-gallon Home Depot bucket. She says, what are you doing? I said, I can't go. I can't do it. I just want pain to stop and I don't know how. And she looks at me and she says, Tim, do you know what this will do to your little girls? Please get down and get on that plane. Get on that plane and everything is going to be okay. And I think I sat there for 30 seconds, a minute crying. I took it off and I fell to the floor and I cried for another 5 or 10 minutes. Then I go upstairs, pick up the phone and I call my buddy Brandon. I'm like, hey man, I'm going. I got to go. If I don't get on that plane tonight, this disease is going to kill me. And all he says, I'm proud of you. I love you. Call me when you pass security because I want to make sure you're actually getting on the plane. I
Mhm.
said, okay, no problem. My mom comes a couple hours later, takes me to the airport. I get past security. I call him and say, hey, buddy, I got 35 minutes to the plane boards. Past security. I'm just waiting for them to allow us to board the plane. And he says, I'm proud of you. I love you. You're about to get back everything that you ever lost times 10. And he simply just hangs up the phone. No bye, no nothing. What happened next is what changed my life. As I go to sit down at this chair, waiting for them to call me my boarding pass, I sit down at this seat at this airport and I get this overwhelming feeling of hope that engulfs my entire body. It was the same warm blanket feeling that drugs and alcohol used to give me, except this time, my worry, my doubt, my fear, my anxiety, my panic, and I truly believe my addiction was all taken from my body.
Mm.
And I hear this woman's voice that I've never heard before or since. And she simply says in my head, everything is going to be okay. It was the most amazing experience that I've ever felt in my entire life. And I truly believe I had a spiritual awakening, a spiritual experience in that airport. As soon as that was done and over with, I felt the calmest I have ever felt in my life. And something happened in my head. I said, okay, this is what we're doing. And we're doing it 100 miles an hour. And I got to rehab. I didn't miss any meetings. I went to extra meetings for military members and veterans. I shared, I volunteered, started working out with a personal trainer 3 days a week. I changed my diet and I found faith, which was something that I've never believed in my life. And it doesn't have to be Jesus or Buddha or Gandhi or whoever. I've started to believe in a power greater than myself that could restore me to sanity. I believed in a higher power. And I had things happen to me at rehab that I can't explain. And I don't want to explain because I know it didn't come from me and it didn't come from this earth. I know something is watching out over me and I know that this was his plan and I have to trust it and understand that what I went through wasn't a punishment. It was for me to truly become the man I was always meant to be. And without seeing darkness, there's no way you can live in the light. You must go through the trenches to see the finish line. I wasn't being punished. I was being educated. I was being schooled. I was being shown how dark and deep life could be. So when I reached this other side of it, I could have the gratitude of what I was given and not take it for granted anymore. And to understand that I have everything I want in life. I don't need anything else. I have my health, I have my family, I have me back. And I finally love the person that I see looking back in the mirror, which I didn't for 3/4 of my life. I was given a gift and I know that now, which is why I must share it with other people.
Yeah.
My friend didn't have to do that. He did it out of the kindness of his heart because Recovery is a we program. We help each other.
Mm.
Can't do it by yourself. So by him so graciously just offering his hand and his services to me, he was able to change my life. I am now given the same opportunity to help other people and change their lives. I have to do it, which I finally know is my purpose, is to help as many people as I possibly can who suffers with mental illness and addiction. So in hopes that they know that they could live the life that they've always been able to do.
Yeah. I feel like it's about coming home to the true self. That when I think of faith, source, God, it's something that comes from the inner self.
Yes.
And you had always been externally focused. You talked about having the ego. You talked about all the things that you experience and the accomplishments with sports and the Marines and everything. And then the substance abuse, which is external. Everything was external.
Yeah.
And you had that awakening feeling of that warmth that connected you back to the true self.
I will never, ever forget that experience. It
Mm.
was
That's
magical.
just amazing. Yeah, it's
It truly
miraculous.
was. And I know not everybody gets to experience that. So I know it was a 1 in a million experience. Cause
Yeah.
I know people who've been in recovery for 40 years and they're like, I've never had a spiritual awakening. It's something that people talk about, but I know for a fact that's what happened.
Yeah, because you're meant to be a teacher. That's your purpose and your role is to be a guide for others. And you were just being put in touch with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because in rehab, I was scared of sharing at first, but there was a group of people that we all hung out, eating lunch together and dinner, and became like a little friendship. And I would tell them my story. I know one particular guy, his name was Josh. And for the last 2 weeks I was there, he would nudge me every day, get up and share your story, share your story. Can't do it, man. He's like, get up and share your story. I'm like, why? He's like, you're going to help somebody one day. He's like, get up and share your story. Finally, it was Easter Sunday. And I ran this before meeting. Our first meeting in the morning was 9 a.m. I would have people come over to the gazebo at 8:30, and I would read a word for the day, a daily reflection, and a quick prayer just to start the day to give them something different than a structured in class meeting. And I go out, and usually about 15 to 20 people would show up. I go out Easter morning and I come out of my room. It was an old Holiday Inn was the rehab.
Okay.
So it was like a horse-shaped Holiday Inn with a pool in the middle. It was a very nice place. And I come out of my door and I'm up on the balcony and there's 50, 60 some people outside. I'm like, what the hell is this? And I'm walking down the steps and one of the counselors come up to me. They're like, all these people want to hear your message this morning because it's Easter morning. I'm like, you've got to be kidding. She's like, yeah, it's too big. We can't be out here. We're going to open up classroom A. We're going to have everybody come in and sit in the chairs. You're going to go up front and read. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" She's no. The whole place fills up. It was like 67 people to be exact, with and 5 counselors, the 2 people that ran the place. I read my reflection for the day, my prayer, and it was a word for the day. It could be like honesty or hope or diligence, and then it was the definition of it, what it meant. And hopefully you would see that throughout the day. And I got done doing that. And there was an older lady there who used to be a professional singer. She's like, can I get up and sing 2 songs for Easter? She got up and sang, and it lasted like 45 minutes. It was like a little legitimate, like almost a church meeting almost for Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
Everybody clears out. And the counselors come up to me. They're like, we've been teaching here for 20 years. We have never seen anything like that. That was amazing. And I was like, wow, they're like, you have something. People draw to you. You need to pursue this. And those things happened. There's like a lot through the rehab. And I was like, that. I get home from rehab and I start following people that do podcasts and recovery and mental health. And I'm like, these podcasts are pretty neat. Maybe I should just share my story once. Just let me get it out there once. I don't know what's going to happen. So I messaged this gentleman. He was actually out of Hawaii and I did the podcast. 2 weeks later, it airs. And I'm actually sitting in a driveway getting ready to pick up a table to take it to my buddy's rehab house. He opened up and the phone rings and it says Cleveland, Ohio. At first, I think it's a scam call or one of those scammers. I pick up on hello. And the guy's, hey, is this Tim? And I'm like, yeah, who's this? He's like, oh, this is Tony. I'm here. I'm sorry, boy. I don't really know any Tonys, man. I'm sorry. He's no, I served with you in 1995 in the Marine Corps. And this is August 2021. I'm like, wow, man. I was like, how'd you get my number? He's, I'm sorry, I got it off of Facebook. I hope it's okay that I called you. I said, yeah, what's going on? You don't really sound too good. He's not doing good at all, man. He said, I've been addicted to opioids for 18 years. I'm an alcoholic. He said, but I wanted to call and reach out to you because I listened to your podcast that you did 4 days ago. He said, man, I got 4 days sober for the first time in 18 years. He said, I just had to call and personally tell you thank you for sharing your story because it has given me the strength and the hope and the courage to change my life because I don't want to live like this anymore. And I remember hanging up the phone and crying. And I was like, what are the chances that not only I reached one person, there's no coincidence
Mhm.
that the person that I reached happened to be somebody that I served with 25 years ago in the Marine Corps. And he reached out to me to tell me personally that what my story did for him. I was like, I got to continue doing this. I
Yeah.
got to continue doing this. So I started messaging people and speaking to you today is my 104th podcast interview.
Oh, I'm honored that you reached out because I've had goosebumps several times in our conversation. You have a gift. You have something that people need to hear, as many people as can hear it. And so I thank you for letting me be a part of that message because that's my whole mission too, is that
Yeah,
people's stories have to be told because
you
they
have
have,
to.
there's a reason why your story is going to touch someone. Someone needs to hear about your life. And that's amazing. So, how long have you been sober?
2 years and 2 weeks today.
Why is it important to count?
A lot of people don't, but I don't want to forget where I came from. I don't want to live in the past, but I don't want to forget where I was and when that magical day happened. I can never forget March 5th, 2021. I had a spiritual experience on that day. That date will be ingrained in my brain forever. It's a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
It allows me to know it's just one more day, one more day, one more day. Some people don't think of it being something special, but it's the biggest accomplishment that I've ever done in my entire life, and I've done a lot of things. This is the most important accomplishment that I've ever done. I never thought I could ever go a day without drugs or alcohol, and here I am 2 years and 2 weeks sober from all mind alternating chemicals. It's a miracle, and I embrace every single day. When I go to bed at night, I thank God for another day of sobriety, a second chance at life, and the opportunity to be a better father, husband, son, and friend.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm able to open my eyes that next day, it's a gift. And I'm going to utilize it as much as I possibly can.
Yeah. If you can look ahead to Tim, who's 10 years sober, what is your message to him?
I wouldn't be able to give him a message because that 10-year Tim from May is going to know a lot more than what
What would
I
he
know
have to say to
now.
you?
You know what? It's consistency. It's discipline. It's one day at a time, which I've learned a lot. People who project future months or future days away end up bringing anxiety, worrying about something that hasn't happened yet. So I know that it is one day at a time. Trust the process because even though you're sober, life happens on life's terms.
Mm.
It doesn't matter there, who you are, how much money you have in the bank. It doesn't matter what your status is in life. People are going to die. You may lose a job. You might get a flat tire. Things happen in life that we cannot control. Change what you can and what you cannot change, let it go.
Yeah.
I've learned to be more peaceful in my life and not worry about the things that I cannot change, the things that I can.
I
Other
think
than that,
that's the biggest lesson you've learned.
yeah, I say that prayer every day. God grant me serenity to change the things that I can and have the wisdom to know
Yes.
the difference.
Right.
It really does. I'll say it 2 or 3 times a day. It's the full prayer, but
Yeah.
has kept me grounded because I'll tend to worry about things that I have no control over. And then my tools that I've learned over the last 2 years will kick in and be like, why are you worrying about it? You can't control it. You can't change it. Yesterday is done with. Let it go. Focus on today. Tomorrow's not promised. Just worry about today and what you can do today.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to live. It's a good motto. What
Yeah.
other lessons have you learned through your life experience?
Be kind to others. I was an asshole. Back when I was, and thank God I was never physically abusive to my family.
Yeah.
But man, did I say the nastiest, meanest, drunken things that I
Yeah.
don't even remember. And that's the hardest thing. I don't remember what I said,
Wow.
but they will remember for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
That's not fair because I just, I don't remember saying that. And here's the things that I said to them. I scarred them forever. And don't be embarrassed of your story. Don't be ashamed.
Yeah.
I think that's what keeps a lot of people from telling people what's going on or asking for help. They're embarrassed. They don't want to burden you with their problems. They're ashamed of what maybe has happened to them. And the biggest one is nobody will understand anyway. I've realized the more I share, the more people connect with me, the more people will share their stories with me and I connect with them. And it's, I don't hide who I am or what I've been through. I will meet you and generally speaking, if we have a conversation and we're 10 sentences in and we're having a good conversation and somebody says, what do you do? How it leads to, I was an alcoholic and addict for 27 years. I now have 2 years sober and I travel the country speaking on mental health and addiction and suicide prevention. I'm a two-time suicide survivor and I help first responders and veterans on their trauma and PTSD.
Yeah.
And the response I get has never been bad.
No,
It's always
imagine. Yeah.
yeah, they're like, "Wow, that's amazing that you're helping others,
That's
and that's
amazing.
so great. I wish other people would do that." Or they'll wait for everybody else to leave, and they'll pull me aside and be like, "I'm going through this. What can I do? Can you help
Yeah.
me in any way?"
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest gift I have received in sobriety is the ability to help somebody else, and it doesn't feed an ego. It's not an ego thing, it's like a soul thing, it's like
That's
a
what I'm
heart.
saying. It's the
Yeah.
true self. It's the inner self.
It's inside. It's a
Yep.
feeling that money can never buy.
Yeah. Nothing external can give you that. It's an internal thing. It's coming home.
Yeah.
Before I ask you about your blessings, because I know that probably one of your blessings is going to be your daughters. And I'm wondering what kind of dad they would say you are.
Now or
Eh,
then?
maybe both.
Okay, so when I was drinking and drugging, I would walk in the front door and my family would scatter like cockroaches with the lights coming on.
Uh,
They never knew what dad was walking in the front
yeah.
door. Was I happy and silly and goofy and messing around? Or was I irritated and nasty and didn't want to be bothered and was raising my voice and they would all just go in the rooms and shut the door. And I didn't realize at the time that to a little girl, somebody like me is a very scary person or could be a very scary person to a little girl. I didn't realize that until I got
Mhm.
sober and it breaks my heart that
Mm.
they had to witness that. But now my relationship with my daughters is amazing. My middle one's 15, my youngest is 12, my oldest is 24 this year. She's been the hardest to get back because she's seen it the most.
Yeah.
My 15 and 12-year-old, we play games, we joke around. They don't hide in their room anymore. They come out, we watch movies, pick up a Dave and Buster's or whatever, or go bowling. We actually have a family connection. My wife will tell you that the house is peaceful. There's no anxiety in the house. We have, I'm not even kidding you. I think in the 2 years and 2 weeks, we have maybe had 3 arguments.
Wow.
And she'll tell people, I have to literally pull his teeth out for him to raise his voice
Yeah.
anymore. She's like, annoying. He just wants to get to the problem, the solution of the problem, and move on.
Yeah.
And she goes, and I'm used to going back and forth and back and forth and back and
Right.
forth. And he's
It's
just
like
like,
your whole new husband.
yeah, yeah. And she's, I like it. She's, but I'm still getting used to the fact that he's just,
Yeah.
she's, I call him Buddha. He just, what's the problem? How can we fix it?
Yeah.
If we can't fix it, let's not worry about it. Let's move on to the next. That's literally how I am now. I just don't want drama in my life.
Yeah.
So they all say I'm a lot more peaceful, a lot more easygoing to get along with. And my oldest daughter, I just took her out to dinner and we had a nice 2 hour dinner. And I was able to look at her in the eyes and apologize for being not such a good father during most of her life. She said, I like seeing the action, Dad. Because when I first came home from rehab, she lived here with my grandson.
Okay.
And I'm 32 days out of rehab. And I'm like, talking to my wife, why isn't she talking to me? I just did rehab. She's like,
Yeah.
Kim, you drank for 27 years. She's 22, right?
Yeah.
She saw all of it. Give it time.
Yeah.
Another month or two go by. She still ain't talking to me. She come in the house, just go directly upstairs, not even look at me. Finally, 9 months into my recovery, and I'm doing the podcast, and I'm going to meetings every single day, 8 meetings. And I got a sponsor, and I'm doing the traditions and living the steps. She texts me, I just want to tell you how proud I am of you. Thank you for giving me the time to heal because I know you were healing too.
Yeah.
But I just wanted you to know I love you and I'm so proud of you. And from that day forward, we would just get closer and closer. And time, it does take time. And
Right.
that's one thing people with addiction have to understand is patience.
Yeah. I'm thinking back to something that you said about yourself as a child. You said that when your dad left, you had an older brother and you thought to yourself, why didn't he do for me what he did for my brother? And I'm wondering if your daughter doesn't have a little bit of that thinking, why didn't he get sober when I was a little girl?
She might have, but this conversation that we had 3 weeks ago at dinner, I don't hide anything from my daughters anymore. I talk to them as if they are somebody who is in fresh recovery, and I explain to them why I did things, why I
Yeah.
am. And I tell them, it doesn't matter about you. It doesn't matter about you. It doesn't matter about you. The person in addiction only cares about the addiction. They're not going to get sober because you want them to. They're not going to get sober because the court system is telling them to. They're not going to get sober because their wife left them or they lost their job. None of that matters to an addict in addiction. The addict only gets help when the addict decides it's time to get help. And that's the scary truth about addiction.
Yeah.
You can pack my bags, walk me to that rehab center, put me in my bedroom and shut the door. But if I don't want what they have to offer, I'm not going to accept it. And rehab is not going to work.
Yeah.
The person himself, herself
Has to
wants,
change.
has to have the, yep,
You talked about your addiction like it was a person.
yeah,
You refer to it as if it's a person, another person. You
it
know?
is.
Yeah.
And if I would have killed myself, I would have been killing the wrong person. I would have never known this person could exist.
Yeah.
I never knew this gentle, caring, kind, loving person ever existed inside of me. I just didn't think it was possible.
Right.
I was this tough exterior. Nobody ever messed with me my whole life. I've lost 2 fights in my entire life. I've been in like 50 of them, in and out of the ring. I just never took shit from anybody. And I always thought that's how I was supposed to be.
Mm.
And you don't want to be a gardener in a war. You want to be a warrior in a garden.
Yeah.
So it's there when you need it, but it's better not to use it. I don't want to be stuck in war and not how to take care of myself.
Yeah.
I'd rather know how to take care of myself, but live in serenity and peace and calm.
Yeah.
And if that should ever arise, I will be able to take care of myself and my family without hesitation.
Yeah.
But I don't have to live that way.
Is there anything anybody could have said to you when you were feeling like taking your life, or that you could say to anyone else who might be having those feelings that could help them?
During my time, for me, I didn't want to hear what anybody had to say. Your opinion could absolutely not matter to me whatsoever because it's all about me. Addiction's selfish and you only care about yourself. Your opinion means nothing to me. I don't care what you have to say, even if it's absolutely the truth and it means it actually makes sense. I don't want to hear it because that means I'm going to have to take accountability and understand what you're saying is the truth. And then I'm going to have to do self reflection and realize, oh my God, I am that person. But if you're not ready, you just don't care about your opinion. But I've noticed doing these podcasts, doing these interviews, I get messages weekly from people I've never met in my entire life. And I heard you on such and such podcast. Thank you so much. Again, coincidence. I just happened to come upon it on the day when I was going to go back to the liquor store and
Mhm.
get a 12-pack of beer and get completely shit faced and say, screw everything. I listened to your podcast and it got me through that hour of wanting to contemplate to use again.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say thank you for sharing because it helped me in one of my dark times. Not a coincidence.
Yeah.
It happened for a reason. You came across me. One of the coolest experiences, what I did a live on Instagram with Jason from Knocking Doors Down. and it was an hour-long live, and we ended, and 5 minutes later, I get this message from this gentleman, and he says, "Thank you for that live. I just had happened to be scrolling through Instagram, and I caught the last 7 minutes of your live during the time where you said not to give up hope, that everything is going to be okay. Stay positive, believe in a higher power, and everything is gonna be all right." He says, "Me and my wife are trying to get my family out of the Ukraine as we speak, as they're being bombed. We have 7 family members over there. Their apartment is in rubbles. They have no electric, they have no food, and we can't get them out. My wife was freaking out, saying they're all going to die. There's no way we can get them out." He's saying, "I listened to your live, and I got off the live, and I yelled at my wife, 'We can't give up hope. Everything is gonna be okay. You got me through this time.'" 2 or 3 weeks goes by, and I get 3 voicemails, and that's the guy calling me back. He said, "Tim, I really," by the way, he lives in Switzerland, from Switzerland.
Wow.
"I wish you were here in Switzerland so I could give you a big hug and take you out to dinner." "We were just able to get all of my family members out of the Ukraine here in Switzerland, all safe and sound. You saying not to give up hope is what got my family through this. I kept screaming it at the top of my lungs. We can't give up hope. We can't give up hope. I thank you and I love you, my brother. I wish I could finally meet you." Like, it's just, it was, I still have the voice messages on my phone because I listen
It's
to it every once
beautiful.
in a while.
So it's
Yeah,
about hope. I mean, it's about hope.
it is about hope.
There's always hope.
There is always hope. And I lost it several times. And that's a scary place to
Yeah.
be.
But you got it back. And thankfully, the last time when you needed that hope, it came in the form of your wife, reminding you
Yeah,
about your daughters, and she saved your life.
she did. It's, again, no coincidence. The timing is not a coincidence.
No,
The
not at all.
the whole time that the way it just stacked up, sleeping in my truck for 2 days, my friend calling me out of nowhere, who I haven't spoke to in 3 years.
Yeah.
My wife just happening to come down at 30 seconds later, who knows if I would have
Yeah.
stepped off. It was just, I get to the rehab and they do all my vitals, and he looks at me and he says, "How old are you?" "I'm 44." He's, "Your liver and kidneys are failing. You have your blood pressure is 167 over 145. You're about to have a stroke." He said, "If you would have waited another month, even if you would have stopped drinking," he said, "you would have died by the age of 47 from alcohol related diseases. You came at the exact time to save your life." It's just too many.
So keep the door open. Keep your mind open to hope. Keep something in your heart. Keep something alive in your heart that can let those things come into your life, because they will come in.
They will.
They
I
do.
know it's hard sometimes. I get it. It is hard to believe and to have faith in something that you can't see.
Yeah.
It is, but without faith, you are truly going to be lost in this world.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is your biggest set of blessings? What are the things you're most grateful for?
Most things I'm grateful for is my wife, number 1.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could have done it without her support. 6 months into my recovery, I asked her, I said, "Why didn't you leave me? I've given you multiple reasons to." And she said, "Because I loved you when you didn't love yourself. I believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself. And I knew that you could be the man that I once married." That's the biggest blessing that any man or woman could ask of their significant other, is to have somebody that loves you and believes in you so much that they're not willing to throw in the towel, that they want to be with you forever. She's my soulmate. She's my best friend. She's everything that, I'm a lucky SOB.
It sure sounds like it. She sounds like an amazing person.
I
And
really
she
am.
had that unconditional love. She saw your heart.
Yeah, I didn't think that existed, but she did. She saw it. And my mom always having my back. She never gave up on me either.
Yeah. Yeah.
She never did. And my 1 year anniversary, I went to the AA meeting and I got to speak, and they called my mom up. And she didn't know that they were going to do that, but she
Oh,
had been
okay.
public speaking for years because of her company. But she said, "I used to cry myself to sleep at night, praying to God that my son would get the help that he needed, because he was so lost and there was nothing I could do for him." She said, "And my prayers have been answered." She said, "That's the biggest blessing that I've ever got." And I never knew. that when we used to hang up on the phone and I'd be yelling at my mother because she wouldn't give me 20 bucks so I could go to the liquor store, that she would be crying herself to sleep. But she said, "I never gave up hope. I never gave up hope." And finally, my prayers are answered.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful to have another day on this earth and the potential to reach one more person. Because
Yeah.
one more person that we reach is one less that we lose to this disease of mental illness and addiction.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. You are an angel on earth, I think. I just have loved our conversation, and I'm so grateful that you're sharing your story. And I am hoping that we reach a lot of people with your message,
Absolutely. I think we will. And even if it's one more,
even if it's one. It's the one who's meant to hear it.
that's it. We never know who's listening
Oh my God.
when they're listening. It could just be that one.
Yeah. Could just be that one. Thank you. Thank you, Tim, for being so open and so beautiful and just sharing your life story with us.
I
It's,
know. Thank you for having me.
I'm
Thank you
honored.
for having a platform for me to be able to share. So thank you.
You're so welcome.